Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you a dashboard I created in Power BI using a single visual. Yes, what you see on the screen is a dashboard that contains only one visual, the Deneb custom visual for Power BI. There is nothing else on this page. You can see on the selection pane that there is only one visual on this page. The title, the subtitle, the question section, all charts, the slicer section, the Sankey diagram on the bottom, everything is a part of a single visual. There is nothing else on this page. This dashboard is my attempt to participate in real work fake data HR cross-functional mobility challenge. And this is where I took a CSV file with a sample of data for the dashboard. And this is where I took a list of questions, what we are going to look for in the data. And I embedded this list of questions directly into my dashboard. Later, I will explain you how I am planning to use this list of questions. It has more purpose than just being in front of you when you're looking at the dashboard. I'm planning to make some interactivity based on this list of questions. I'm already planning to start a series of videos about Vega visualization grammar and the Deneb custom visual on my YouTube channel. For some of you, it's probably a new subject. Some of you already created great visualization using Vega or as a Vega Lite visualization grammar and Deneb custom visual. In this video, I am going just briefly explain what is behind the dashboard, how Vega was used to create the dashboard. So let me show you what is inside, what is behind this dashboard. As you can see here in the left bottom corner, there are about 1700 rows of Vega JSON behind the dashboard. Every element of this dashboard, every section of this dashboard, like question section, slicer section, every single chart included in this dashboard is a part of a group mark in Vega. Let me scroll up, and we have group right 3 by Tenura type group mark here, and this is what is used as a group is like a placeholder for different elements of your dashboard, and you have control over where this group will be placed on the dashboard. You can see here that I have X and Y coordinates of my group. So this is what allows me to arrange charts on my dashboard and to have full control over how all the charts combined into the large dashboard. Within every group, I have a scale that allows me to convert my values like numbers of employees or relative percentages into XY positions of chart elements like a bar on the chart. I have a title section for the titles of every chart. I have access for the X or Y axis of my charts, and I have marks that use it to create visual elements of my chart, like mark type rect allows me to create a rectangle. A rectangle can be used to create a bar chart, a column chart, or in the case of my dashboard, rectangles also use it to create heat maps. So basically, this is how the entire dashboard is created. More complicated part of the dashboard visually is a Sankey diagram, because it includes more elements than just rectangles. Sankey diagram includes rectangles. So for every month we have rectangles that show us a structure of the company, like how many people we have in each team in the beginning of November, how many people we have in each team in the end of November, and then we have the same for every following month, and we have these pauses between beginning and end of the month to show movements of people between the teams and between the departments. So I'm not going to provide much more details today about the Vega code behind this dashboard. I will do it later in my following videos, because I think I'm going to start from the basics and more simpler examples, and then at some point of time I will create a video where I detailedly explain how I created this dashboard from Vega point of view, from I will talk more about the JSON code and what properties I have to use to be able to create this dashboard, to add some interactivity to this dashboard, to manipulate with data within the dashboard. About manipulation with data, it's one more moment behind the Vega-based visualizations. In Vega, I can do a lot of data transformations already within the dashboard. So you can notice on this dashboard that there are different levels of aggregation. I can switch between departments view, teams view. I have overall movements between the teams. I have monthly movements between the teams. So I need different levels of aggregation of data for this dashboard, and all manipulation with data are being done inside of the dashboard in using the Vega JSON methods. Now let's talk about the dashboard from another point of view, not from developer's point of view, but from data analysis point of view. What data we have behind this dashboard and how the dashboard actually works to explain the data. The data behind the dashboard is a CSV file that contains information about movements or lack of movements for every employee during 6 months period. What I noticed in the data file that for every employee and every period of time, months in this case, so we have employee 01 here, and we have November 2021. For every single pair employee and date period, we have two records. They actually duplicated records because we have a gainer and a loser row in each pair, and gainer explains from what team this employee moved out, and loser row explains to what team or department this employee moved in. But in fact, every record contains enough information to understand the movement from what team or department an employee moved to what team or department. We don't need second record. They are just differently arranged, the same data, but differently arranged between the columns. So first thing I do within my Vega visualization is I just filter in by this gainer loser team category, and I'm just excluding gainer rows to keep only loser rows to avoid having duplicate records in my data. And another important thing I noticed during data exploration is we have different types of movements. We have department change when a person moves from one department to another department. We have, let me skip the lever. We have left the company category type. It's when someone left the company. We have newcomer. It's when we hired new person for the company. We have no movement when someone just continues to working in the same team in the same department, and we have team change when there was a movement between the team, but there was no movement between the departments. But lever looked strange for me, so I had to contact with challenge organizers and ask them what it actually means. So again, it's how important to analyze your data and to ask questions if something is unclear. And it looks like leaver is just someone who is going to leave the company but not left yet, and it's not really relevant for this dashboard where we are analyzing movements that already happened. So I ignored the lever type and I just treated lever and no movement like it's no movement type of movement. Now let's talk about the dashboard itself, how it explains the data, how it answers the questions we have about the data. What I did from the beginning, I put a list of my questions, a list of questions from the challenge description. I put them into my dashboard, into the left top corner. So I always had these questions in front of me during the dashboard development. So it's easier to look at the questions and understand if the chart I'm trying to add to the dashboard is going to answer one of these questions. So it was very useful during the dashboard development, but my purpose from the beginning was wider than just have the question in front of me to support dashboard development. My plan, sadly, I had no time yet to implement everything I wanted to implement on this dashboard, but my plan from the beginning was to make this list of questions interactive and to use it to support a person who is going to use this dashboard to analyze the data and to get the answers to these questions. So the idea is that one is clicking on, for example, a new hires leaving from all teams equally. And click on this item supposed to highlight, first of all, click it the selected question, and then it's going to filter and highlight data on the dashboard in the way that supports the answer to this question in the best way. So for these specific questions, it will let's review the questions by parts. A new hires. So the question is about new hires. So the click on this question is supposed to check the new hires only checkbox. So we have only new hires data on our dashboard. Leaving from all teams equally. Teams equally. We need to switch to teams dashboard. We don't need departments data. We need teams movement of employees between teams. So the click on the question should also switch the dashboard to teams view. And the last part of the question is, are they leaving equally from all teams? So the click on the question is supposed to highlight this bar chart, loser teams, that explains us how people were leaving from different teams. And here on the top, we actually see newcomers, so we can ignore this part. But the bottom part of this chart has to be highlighted by the click on this question, so we can see from each team how many persons left this team during the 6 months period. So this is my idea about how to make the list of questions interactive, but again, I had no time to implement it yet. I'm going to implement it eventually. I don't care that it's already be beyond the challenge, because I don't know when I will have time to implement this, but I like the idea and I want to implement it, and I will make a new video just about this functionality of my dashboard later. Maybe it will be in a few weeks or a month, but I'm going to do it eventually. And now I will show you what kind of functionality and interactivity has been already implemented on this dashboard. So first of all, we have this slicer section that allows to switch between different views. So we can switch between departments and teams view to see movements of employees between departments or between teams. What I want to mention here, it's possible to add some complexity to this dashboard, which is probably will be useful for some kind of deeply analysis of the data, but it's also takes a lot of time to implement, so I just avoided implementing this functionality yet. For example, we can make it possible to drill down from a certain department to the team's view only for this department. But for now, I just use it as a department or as a team's view, but there is no drill down functionality, there is no drill up functionality when we can go from a specific team up to the department that holds this team. But again, this is a question to consider during development of such dashboard. Do we need this kind of complexity? And if we think that our analysis will benefit from this kind of complexity, we can add it as an additional functionality. So probably someone who needs these details and this complexity can use this functionality by using one more checkbox, for example, here. And we can keep it simple by default. Another checkbox here switches between the entire company, all employees, and new hires only, the employees that worked less than a year in the company. So it's just one click to filter the dashboard. And while I believe that default color schema I use it is works really well for this dashboard, we have this greenish, reddish, and different shades of gray, and I believe it's enough colors for the dashboard. It works really well, taking account that we have some cross highlighting, and I don't think we really need more colors, but I try to implement this functionality just to see how it works, and if the Sankey benefits from using more colors, because I believe that Sankey probably really benefits on certain stage of the analysis from having more colors. So I have this checkbox expanded color schema that adds more colors to the dashboard. So every department has its own color, or every team has its own color on the team's view. But what is important to say here is that if we are adding more colors to one of the charts, we need to keep the same color schema for all the charts. So if department D is greenish on the Sankey, we need to switch the color schema for all other charts and to make department D greenish on all other charts. It won't work well if the bar chart and the heat map will use default color schema and only Sankey will be able to switch between two different color schema. I believe that color schema has to be consistent within the dashboard. So I added this checkbox that switches the color schema for the entire dashboard. And another very important part of the dashboard is this show relative value as a checkbox, because it's very different when two persons left a department of 100 of persons, and when two persons left a three employees department. So relative value is probably even more important than absolute values, but for really good analysis, we need both of them, absolute and relative values. So I added this checkbox that allows to switch between absolute and relative values. And later I will show you that switching to relative analysis shows a bit different, that movements a bit different between departments and teams when we are looking from absolute values and relative values. So some movements are less significant or more significant when we see a percentage values in a comparison with team or department size. So it's very important part of the dashboard. Probably the most important part of the dashboard is to have the relative values, the churn rate and acquisition rate. Also, I have to add a note that I had no time to really complete this dashboard. So as it says here in the title, it's a draft version and bugs to be expected. And I believe my calculations of the relative value is probably not correct in this by tenure chart. Again, the dashboard have different levels of aggregation, and it's not easy to calculate relative values such as churn rate and acquisition rate on different levels of aggregation, because we basically need to calculate average of average here. And there are different approaches to do it, and we need to be very carefully when calculating averages on different levels of aggregation. So it requires a lot of time to make sure everything works correct and there is no any mistake here. So eventually I'm going to back to this dashboard and to review it again to fix any mistakes I will found in the calculations. I believe the main part of the dashboard is work. So the heat map, this bar chart, this column chart, the movements, and I believe the by month part of the dashboard already works well. But again, ignore by tenure percentage. I believe there is some bug. That's what I wanted to say about the slicers functionality of the dashboard, but also there is some additional interactivity. There is some cross highlighting on this dashboard that is very useful when you are trying to understand the movements between teams and departments. You can click, for example, on any square in this main heat map, and as you can see, when I click it on this square, it highlighted me that we are talking about movement from department D, loser department is D, and gainer department is B. So we are talking about movements from department D into department B. And the row on the right, the corresponding row that says about movement from department D to B is also highlighted. And at the same time, both departments are highlighted on the Sankey diagram, and all movements between those two departments are highlighted. So this is what allows us to highlight a movement from one department to another, but also we can highlight all movements from a certain department by clicking here on department name or on a bar chart corresponding to the department name, for example, department A. I can highlight all movements out of the department A. And Here on the right, you can see that all movements from department A are highlighted. A to B, A to C, and who left the company from department A. All these rows now highlighted here on the right. And also we can click on department name here on the top gainers department section. Or we can click on a bar to highlight all movements into the selected department. So now we can see all movements into department D. And here on the right, we see all newcomers into department D. We can see who moved from B to D and from C to D. And the same about the Sun key, we see the department D highlighted, and we'll see all movements into the department D highlighted. This is all regarding the cross-highlighting functionality of the dashboard, and now let's talk about how actually this dashboard answers our questions about the data. So as I already mentioned, we have the list of questions here in the top left corner, and the first question is, are things healthy or out of balance? And the central part of the dashboard actually supposed to answer the first question. So the central heat map shows us movement from one team to another team, and if everything balanced, then relative movements between the teams should be similar. Like there should be no teams that lost most of people, while there are teams that lost almost no employees. So if something is out of balance on this heat map, we will see some combination of lighter and darker squares. And actually we see that department B and from department B to department C, some significant movements are happening, and from department D to department D, some significant movements happening, and from department D, some significant amount of employees left the company. So this is what the core heat map shows us, and at the same time, the bar chart on the left shows us total how many people from what departments left. And we see that most significant losers are department B and department D. So relatively, they are losing much more people than department A and department C. And here on the top, we see that the main gainers are department C, and department D and B lost a bit less percentage of the gained a bit less people in comparison with department C. So there is some disbalance here, and we can switch to teams to see more details about what is actually happening here. So I'm switching to Teams view, and here something really important and out of balance is happening. Now it's become clear for us because you can see this red 75%, and you can see here on the top 75% of the team 10 at some point left the company. So something is definitely out of balance. Also, let's see what other large numbers and dark squares we have here on the heat map. We can see that a significant amount of team 9 moved to team 10 for some reason. We can see that from team 3 to team 5 there are some significant movements. So this is what we will want analyze deeply. We will need to probably to speak with team leaders to understand what was the reason behind these significant team movements. When more than 50% of team moved to another team or left the company, then something important happened. Maybe it was okay because the team just successfully completed a project and they was ready to move to another team to start new project, or maybe something bad is happening in this team. Maybe they just weren't able to work together efficiently and move it to another teams for not so good reasons for our company. So we need to understand what is happening, and definitely we want to understand why so many people left company from team 10. So again, I believe this heat map in combination with the bar chart and column chart really well shows us where some disbalance is happening. So this is the core part of the dashboard that answers is there any disbalance, and the other part of the dashboard just allows us to see some context and more details regarding the monthly movements and movements by tenure to understand what exactly was the source of these movements, when exactly they happened, and we will have more details about the disbalance when we are looking at other parts of the dashboard. But again, here we have the core part of the dashboard that answers the main question: are things out of balance? And we have two final questions to answer. Are a lot of new hires leaving the company, and are new hires leaving from all teams equally? I already mentioned the last questions, but these two questions, they are both about new hires leaving the company. And as I already mentioned, we have this new hires only checkbox. And when it's checked, then the dashboard is filtered and we can see only new hires movements on the dashboard. So the entire dashboard works now to explain async balanced for the new hires. And these loser teams bar charts show us from what teams are losing the most significant amount of employees. So are they leaving company equally or not equally? We can see that from team 10, 50% left company, from team 9, 50% left company. So we can see that something is definitely out of balance here. And we can also see that people are not just left companies, they are moving to another teams. So from team 3, half of the team at some point moved to team 5. So something is definitely out of balance when we are talking about new hires as well. So this is how the dashboard answers the questions. Overall questions: is everything is balanced or disbalanced in our company? And more detailed questions like about new hires and about specific teams, specific dashboards. This is all I wanted to tell you about the dashboard. You probably will want to play with it by yourself. Feel free to send me a message or to write a comment under this video if you notice anything important, if you notice any bug, if you have any question, if you have any proposals of how it can be improved. I believe I will continue my work on this dashboard. I can make it a really great example of what is possible in Power BI using Vega visualization grammar and how you can extract as much as possible useful insights from your data using a dashboard like this. An important thing to highlight regarding this dashboard, I already mentioned that I believe that less colors is better. So this red, green, gray color schema, I believe works really well here. And everything needs to be consistent when we are talking about colors. So if a color applied to a certain theme, it should be applied to a certain theme on the entire dashboard. And when we have on dashboard something else than theme, then we shouldn't use the same color for that we already use it for a theme for something else. For example, if we have teams and departments on the same dashboard at the same time, we can use green for team 5 and the same green for department B. It will add just some confusion. But we can keep it consistent by using green for newcomers and left and red for leavers. And gray for everything else. So again, you choose colors by thinking very well about, do we need additional colors? Do we need to use this or other colors on this chart for this specific item? And again, when you will be building a dashboard using Vega visualization grammar, just remember that you have almost unlimited possibilities regarding cross-filtering, cross-highlighting, changing chart type on the fly. These are useful features that really will be helpful if you need something that allows the dashboard user to analyze the data. That's all I wanted to say. I also want to say thank you to the organizers of the challenge. It was really interesting challenge. I'm really pleasured that I had a chance to work on this dashboard. Sadly, I had to switch to clients projects and had no much time, but I'm planning to go back to this dashboard in the nearest future. I want to finish what I described about the question section. I want to fix any bugs if there are any, and to add some additional features regarding interactivity to this dashboard. But what I want to highlight is that I believe that a simple bar chart and heat map is what works really well here. So there is no need to create in creating some custom kind of chart, new chart type, but a combination of a basic bar charts with an interactivity features allows us to really deeply analyze the data and to understand what is going on with our cross-functional mobility. SNK chart is what I also believe works well on this dashboard to show us an overview of how movements are happening over time between the teams and departments of the company. I want to say thank you to the organizers of this challenge. It was a really interesting project for me. And as I already mentioned, I'm going to continue working this project when I will have more time, because it's really interesting. And again, the entire dashboard created using just a single visual. So I have control over every element of this dashboard from my Vega JSON, and it's really inspiring when you have control over all the details and you can implement whatever you want, and all your ideas can be implemented into this dashboard to allow better data analysis. So thank you for watching this video. It probably was my longest video for now. And subscribe to my channel to watch the following videos. Click like button if you liked this video. And see you again. Bye.